I just want to start with DA and his role. You have a player that is coming from there. Do you talk with him at all about keeping the emotions in check or anything like that since he's playing his former team?
No, he's played a lot of basketball. He's played in big games. Feel confident that he'll have himself ready to go. There's a lot of change in college basketball now. Like, he's not the only person in this situation. Like, it happens all the time.
You saw them last year when DA was on that team. I'm curious what you saw in Dayton that from that game, if there was much you remember from that game and Dayton's role in that game that made you think, yeah, this is a guy in the offseason, that this is a guy we'd love to have.
Yeah, I mean, our evaluation of Dayton was more than just that game, but he did play well against our in our game last season. I actually think it was probably so Drake Allen got hurt in that game, so he played well, and then kind of felt like, I mean, I wasn't paying super close attention to them outside results, but it felt like he kind of built on that as the season went and had a really good season, played really well in the conference. And but our evaluation and recruitment of Dayton was a lot more about what he did in the Mountain West Conference and his efficiency, the way he finished, the pressure he put on the rim.
Is Utah State doing something a whole lot different than last year when you prepared for him, or is the fact that you've gone through some Utah State and Jared Calhoun prep something that you can benefit from this go around?
I think anytime you've faced them previously, it's better than maybe not having done it. But I do think that their team is different. They're playing a little differently. Obviously, we have a very different team from what we were doing last year. So I wouldn't say there's a lot. But yeah, we'll always take more familiarity over less.
UNM on Saturday averaged 1.475 points per possession. This is a team that seems very connected offensively. You mentioned the defense maybe wasn't at the level that you would want it to be, but they made some great shots. What's been the key to the offensive efficiency that you've seen so far?
Yeah, I think it's decision making, comfort level, guys, just kind of playing with each other. I think the way that we play offense, it's a lot of decision making, read and react, both on and off the ball. So theoretically, we should improve as the season goes on, and we should continue to get better as guys get more familiar with each other. They get more reps. They see more coverages. So I think it's, in part just some progress that we're making, and in part just a good performance from our team in that specific night.
Utah State leads the Mountain West Conference at 84.5 points per game. They run a lot of screens for MJ Collins and Mason Falslev. What are the keys for you guys defensively shutting them down?
Yeah, so I mean, they're the most efficient offense in our league by quite a bit. So we have to try to slow those guys down. I don't know that shutting them down is realistic, but we just want to make things difficult. They do a great job of getting guys in positions of strength. They put their guys in spots where they can be successful. They do a lot of stuff for Falslev and Collins. Obviously, those guys are really talented players. And it'll be a big challenge for us to try to keep them away from their strengths, try to force them into more difficult shots, and try to limit their effectiveness.
So the Hal Razors are giving out, I think it's Celsius energy drinks, so they can, because it's going to be a 9 p.m. starting game. Is there any change to the process now that you guys got a couple of late starting games?
No, we try to keep it consistent. It kind of throws our timing, outside of what we would normally do. But, we've done it a couple times now, and so I think our guys will be fine.
DA did tell us that you have leaned on him a little bit in terms of scouting, just in terms of specific personnel and stuff like that. You haven't really had that luxury a ton this year to lean on a player with experience against a former team. I'm just kind of curious how that's helped you this week, just game planning and having that little bit of extra scouting.
Yeah, I mean, I think assistant coaches are probably talking to him about his experiences relative to some of the players that are back from their team. I personally haven't had that conversation with Dayton, but I know our staff, they put in a ton of time trying to prepare and use every resource available. So if someone around who's played with players that you're trying to evaluate, it makes sense to get their thoughts.
And I know that you have, a couple quad one opportunities throughout the season, but I mean, to have one at home, that is pretty rare. So just talk about how you guys have to capitalize on this opportunity when you have it in front of you.
Yeah, it's a big game. Great team coming in, playing here at home. It's hard to create that type of opportunity. Certainly in the non-conference, it's extremely difficult. And, so we have one here in the conference, and it'd be a great time to play great basketball.
And then obviously, it's something that fans are going to hype up about a lot, and I'm sure the players have talked about it, but just this is the first place game in the Mountain West. I'm curious kind of how much emphasis you are putting on the postseason push and all of the implications that this game will have for your future next month.
Yeah, I think everybody's aware, but in terms of emphasis, like our focus is just where it always is on, what can we control? What's our preparation? Are we focused on, the scouting report, defensive execution, offensive execution relative to what they're doing? That's where we try to keep our focus at all times, regardless of the game. But yeah, we're aware of the standings. We're aware there's a great team coming in, and we certainly want to try to take advantage of the opportunity.
Their offensive efficiency, as you said, was by a good chunk the highest in the Mountain West. Jared Calhoun was a little critical of their half-court offense recently. Said it was just horrible. Is that a little bit coach speak, or are they really getting a lot of their offense in transition?
I think it's relative, I'm sure, right? Like, if you have the best offensive team in the league, then maybe your standards for what half court should look like is a little higher. They do a great job. Coach does a great job over there. Got a lot of respect for them and their staff, but they're also dynamic in transition, and they do a great job turning people over. I want to say they're top 10 in the country on forcing turnovers, which they're fantastic in transition. So they have a lot of they're able to go on runs. We've seen multiple times where they've either gotten themselves back in a game, gotten control of the game, separated from people. I think if you just look back a couple of games ago, Colorado State led for a lot of that game, and turnovers and transition sort of flipped it, and they were able to pull it out on the road. So, everything's connected in every game, but if we can take care of the basketball and keep them out of transition and force them into the half court, they're more than capable in the half court, but we'd still rather that than have them in transition because they're so good in transition. So they're also the best offensive rebounding team in the league. So there's phases to it, and we have to try to get back as quickly as possible, get them into the half court, try to force a difficult shot, and then, finish on the glass against the best offensive rebounding team in the league. So there's a lot of challenges that they present throughout their offensive possessions, and we're going to have to be really connected and execute at a high level and sustain that focus throughout possessions in order to have success.
You and Jared Calhoun are both with non-Division I backgrounds, with Division II backgrounds, both kind of now in the Mountain West, doing well. One season so far for you, and your first season, second season for him, after coming up from Youngstown State for him. Is there something to be said for the style that both of you guys are playing, where you guys are putting players in positions rather than maybe just getting these five-star recruits? Is there something to be said for that coming up from the lower levels that you and him kind of have in common? Because they seem to do that a lot. Like you said, they put them in positions of strength. Is there some similarities in that comes from coming up from the lower levels?
Yeah, maybe. I think I only want to speak for myself, but I feel like I learned a ton at the Division II level. Like I got a lot of reps as a head coach in a different environment where there's no cameras around, nobody cares to talk to you about what you're doing or why you're doing it. And I think there's a freedom in that as a coach to kind of figure out how you want to play, what's the best way to play with your team. I think that's, I think by and large, you probably see more creativity at lower levels because sort of out of necessity, you have such variance in what the resources are relative to your conference. You could be in a Division II conference and some teams have 10 full scholarships and others have 4. So if you're on the lower end of that, how are you going to be successful? You got to kind of find a way, maybe think outside the box a little bit. I think the years of Division II certainly shaped my career in just terms of learning and growing and kind of getting those reps in an environment where nobody's paying attention. Nobody's gonna like ask you afterwards, well, that was dumb. We did lots of dumb stuff nobody knew, and then you could get better and learn from it, and then try to improve. I don't know if Jared would feel the same way about his progression, but I mean, he had a ton of success. I think he went to the national championship game at some point. So, I really value those reps that I got, and I think you can see kind of nationally more of those lower level coaches kind of progressing in the college basketball landscape a little bit.
And then just one question on Mason Falslev. What's he best at?
Basketball. Like, he's a really good basketball player. He plays both sides of the floor. A ton of disruption defensively. He rebounds it. He gets the rim, shoots it, makes plays for other people. I just think he's a winning player who competes at a really high level. He has a care factor. He's I have a ton of respect for him as a player and competitor, and he's a really well-rounded player who impacts the game in a ton of ways.
So Dayton talked about the unselfishness of the team. You were talking about traits you looked for that brought him to your attention to have him come. It's very rare that people take selfish shots, forced shots. Is that something that you look for in the recruitment of players, or do you think that's kind of like a culture that was built from the time you guys all got together? Because obviously, it's part of their mindset is if somebody has a little bit better shot, you give it to them.
Yeah, and I think Dayton's doing a great job of that. I mean, you mentioned him, and I think his creation for others, and if you look at kind of how we were playing early in the year and like the progression that we've made offensively, I think Dayton's a big part of that with just his decision-making, his passing. He's regularly getting, multi-assist games and creating for others. And I think you see some, the way we're shooting it is improved because we're moving the basketball. Relative to like building the roster and recruiting, like we try to evaluate, decision-making and self-awareness, right? Like, do guys know who they are as players? Like, I think that's a big part of being unselfish. Like, a lot of times I think guys that take more difficult shots or bad shots, it's maybe more about like not understanding what the ideal shot profile is for them and trying to, they're just trying to play the game. They're trying to win, but maybe they just don't have the understanding of how to go about it. I think our guys do a nice job of understanding what they're good at. I think we have a lot of self-aware, smart guys who are just trying to play the right way. And so we try to, help guys understand what the ideal shot profile is for them to be efficient. We watch a lot of film, try to help them be better decision makers. But all of that comes from guys who care about winning, right? So the biggest thing for us in building the roster in today's landscape is to continue to identify guys that care about winning, because there's a lot of other factors involved in the game at this point. And so I think it's important. It's important to have guys that care about winning, and that's a priority for them. And I think we have that. I think our guys have a really high care factor, and they want to win. And, they're doing a nice job of not worrying about who scores the points or gets the rebounds or gets the credit. And, I think that's a way where your team can, become a little better than the sum of its parts, which we're always trying to do.
In terms of Utah State's offensive rebounds, Tom is obviously such a big part of what you guys do, and he leads the league in rebounding. So, when it's a strength-on-strength matchup like that, do you lean on Tom even more so than, you typically do, or does it matter where the rebounds come from, or do you have to talk about Tom like, hey, this is what they're really good at, this is what you're really good at, we really need you tomorrow night?
Yeah, no, Tom Slopp knows that we need him to rebound every single night against everybody. I think it's more everyone else understanding that, like, it's not his job alone to do that, and that we have to help, and everybody has to do their job. And, if everybody executes, then the likelihood that Tom Slopp is going to get the rebound goes up, right? Like, if we're not executing around him, then we're making his job harder. So it's more just everyone executing and doing their job, understanding who's going to crash, who's not, where shots are coming from, how we want to execute and just get the ball back.